Call to order.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Sullivan Smoot.
Yes.
Mr. Breed.
Yes.
Dr. Henry is absent.
And we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. All rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
you. Dr. Fox, do we have any agenda changes or additions?
No, we don't.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to skip 3. Oh, yes. Thank you. I was going to skip that, even though I had to put the check marks. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented this evening.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion by Jackie, second by Dwayne. That's been a request. So,
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smoot.
Yes.
Mr. Breed.
yes. We're going to skip 3 because we haven't covered that in closed session at this point. So that would be at the end. We'll come back to that one. Number 4, comment. The citizen comment. Yes, and we need to go get Toby.
We have Megan Williams, 300 North Bank Street, Monterey, Virginia. I feel that we should follow the American Academy of Pediatrics and CDC recommendations that students should be masked when inside at school. The proper wearing of masks will allow a more normal mixing, interacting of students while keeping them safe.
Thank you. And while we're waiting on the in-person to come in to speak to us on their topic, just wanted to remind you that if you submitted comments to the board and they were not a topic on the agenda, they may not have been read. So just know that it wasn't read because it's not a topic on the agenda. Hello.
Hello.
Please state your name and your address.
Toby Longnecker, 1314 US Highway Business 340.
Thank you.
I just want to introduce myself quickly. It's going to sound like I'm not here for the agenda, but I am. My name is Toby Longnecker. I've lived in Monterey since 2002. Husband, a father to 2 amazing kids, a brother, a son, and I'm also a transgender man. Now, I didn't come here to talk about the bathroom policy, and I didn't come here to sway anybody's mind. I came here for 3 different reasons. First of which is to remind you, the board, and you, my fellow citizens, including the ones in the parking lot who've been threatening me, that our children are watching and they are listening. They're listening to the way you talk about people and the way you talk to people, whether you agree with them or not. We're here, we're human, we're someone's son, someone's aunt, someone's cousin, and someone's father. The second reason I'm here to speak tonight is the old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Last meeting's written public comment were excluded from being read in an effort to save time. And I understand nobody wants the meetings to run until 10, 10:30, 11, but in previous meetings, especially those dealing with protocol for COVID, every comment that was submitted via the Google form was read by a board member. I know that I'm not the only one statement who wasn't read. I know there were plenty of statements that weren't read on both sides of whatever agenda. But not only is this insulting as a citizen that there seems to be a lack of uniformity in protocol, but it's also insulting as a trans man that you've chosen intentionally or otherwise to silence those voices. Which leads me to my last and most important reason to speak tonight. If anyone is struggling with the comments made from the last meeting, in the school board meetings across the valley, or by social media comments, please know that not everyone in this community judges you or questions your existence. There's so many people that I've met in the last 19 years that I've lived here that have cherished and loved me for my authentic self. Hold on to that thought when you feel unloved and unsafe. You're not alone. As author Juno Dawson said, remember this, whoever you are, however you are equally valid, equally justified, and equally beautiful. My hope is that you guys will not silence written comment anymore. If we can't be here in one room to have the discussion, either read none or read all of them. You shouldn't be able to pick and choose for whatever the meeting is, and if you're going to stay later, if you want to go. You sign up for it when you got to vote it in, and it's part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Can you just double check with,
pardon, is that what you're saying?
no, double check with Kim? There's no more? Moving on to 5, which are meeting minutes. The June minutes are there for the board's review. So please review those for action at the next meeting. Moving on to informational items. Seacrest.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, you all have been provided with the monthly financial report for June for the total expenditures and revenue were $4,426,371.32. This report also closes out our FY 21 year. And we are currently working with the auditors, and they will be back again in the fall so that we can be talking about fund balance and how much of that, money was be left, as we have accruals that happen with payroll that's still continuing to happen now, as well as some accounts payables of things that were ordered prior to that June 30th date that are still arriving that will be paid for, that they will put back. Along with this, you've also been given the local match calculation that we did balance with the treasurer at the end of June. And if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
With everything that happened the last couple of years, what's the process now? Is that something that's been lined out with you and the county?
As far as, so the auditors will come in and they'll do their work.
Okay.
And for both our side as well as the county side. And then they give us that CAFR report. And I now know where to look. I spoke with the auditors in length, when I first got here about that. And so we will be able to find that amount, but they do that work and put those items back and that sort of thing. So that's why it's a little bit difficult right now to project an amount of fund balance.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're watching it and how we
Yes, sir.
relate. We need a better relation, obviously.
Yes.
So,
How did the closeout go? The spend down go?
It went well, and again, like I said, with payroll still happening, there's some summer school costs that we could use in that, as well as some items. We had folks that were trying to get things here. They had contacted companies and they said, oh, it'll be there by June 30th, and then it was not here by June 30th. So again, still waiting on some of that to arrive to spend. Again, we know that we didn't spend all of our local funds because we did get $1.5 million.
COVID money. Okay, any other questions about the financials? Okay, we have to stop for a second because I have to ask the board this question. Some of the community members are still here and wish to be heard, so I need to ask if it's the pleasure of the board if we do hear them on a topic that's not on the agenda, or do you want to stick with the standing practice of speaking to what's on the agenda? It's at the pleasure of the board. So do you want to hear for those who are here, or do you want to stick to the standing practice that we only hear comments on what's on the agenda?
that means here.
It's quite a few. Yeah, but there's a lot more out there.
Will this open up a can of worms that if we do it tonight, then you gotta
We've
do
already done it.
I
We
think
did on the last meeting.
I think if we do with the regulation that is on our topic for later, once we look at that and approve that, then I think that sits what definitely we do as practice from there on. So it's been done in the past, so
My opinion is that we should listen to them, and this is my reasons for it. We did it the last meeting, and Toby ventured in some areas that we're not discussing. So to be fair, as long as it's respectful and things are
Okay.
treated correctly, that's what my opinion is, but I'm just one person.
so we have one yes so far.
Yes.
I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Yes, yes. All right, so just get their names.
As long as you got the limit on them.
Okay, and I know some of them's watching, so we are going to hear the people here that's not even here for agenda items. So we will hear your comments, but still know that you're adhere to the 3-minute rule, and then we'll move on to the next person. So
Well, one thing I did notice when Toby was speaking, there was no mic there. So I don't know if that's getting a problem, if that made it a
yeah,
problem.
is it getting? Okay. We're gonna move on with the rest of our agenda, and then the comments can be at the end.
Okay. Here, they can use my mic if you want to. You won't go through there? Well, there's Amy's.
All right,
Oh, yeah, take Amy's.
yeah.
I think this is the one we usually
Oh, it
do.
will? Okay.
And then I just share with. I don't know if it'll make it all the way. Show them.
Okay.
Also, I don't need one.
So with one of them, she can get.
Oh, copy that.
Okay, around my chair now,
Oh.
around my neck. Thank
I feel
myself.
like a trout. Go back with me, there you go.
Yeah, make sure it's on.
Got it?
We're gonna, yeah, but we're gonna come back to that at the end. So we're gonna finish and then come back. So just, won't take us but a few moments, so we'll come back.
You're fine. If you
So
would just.
you just,
You get a chair?
just stand, yeah,
No, that's fine. I'll just wait.
yeah, just stand right there and you're good. All right, so let's move. All right, opening of schools information, Dr. Fox.
Thank you, Chairman. And to the board, I do have some information for you tonight. I recognize that it might look like a lot on paper to you, but we wanted to share information with you tonight about things that are pertinent to the opening of school. This is not that we've made any decisions about anything. What we wanted to do tonight was just present you with the information that we have at hand right now that's coming from the Virginia Department of Education, from the VDH, and from the CDC. So, the first couple of slides are just reiterating the importance right now of having in-person instruction, and you're going to see the consistency there from the CDC, from the Virginia Department of Health, from the Virginia Department of Education, as well as the American Academy for Pediatrics, that we need kids in school, in person, for instruction. And if you all recall, earlier this spring, the division made the decision to move forward with having all students in school 5 days a week. And that is still what we're planning for. We have not changed that plan. But I will say that we do have to acknowledge with an asterisk that COVID may change our plans as we move along. Just like you had said last year, in your planning, we're going to move forward with the information we have at hand, knowing that we may have to make some adjustments along the way. We hope that doesn't happen, but it would not be prudent of me to tell you otherwise to go in that direction. Right now, there are 5 guidance steps that we are being advised to use as we begin to make decisions about school and then different precautionary measures that we might put in place. And these are coming from this report that was provided from the VDH and the VDOE recently on their updated guidance to schools for the implementation of practices related to COVID-19. So the first step is to evaluate the level of community disease transmission. And these are graphs that you've probably become far too accustomed to seeing over the past year. This is just the trend right now of overall COVID cases across the state. And what the health department wanted us to note is that you're seeing that little bit of an upward tick toward the right end of that graph. And that's just, you're seeing some cases now coming in when we had a real down spike. When we evaluate the level of community disease and transmission, there's 2 variables that we look at. One is the number of cases per 100,000 people in the population within the last 7 days, and the other is the percent of tests positive. When you look at those 2 values, you're going to get either a low, a moderate, a substantial, or a high value attached to them. If there is a difference between the 2, you take the higher of the 2. So if you could move to the next slide, you'll see right now we are in the moderate range. And what I've tried to just show you, just to give some perspective, because it has been a while since we've talked about these values, is where we are today versus where we were, say, at the end of the school year, where we were in March, February, January, when things were in the red at high, and then where we were last August when we started school in 2020. We were also in the moderate range. And you'll also notice with the graph at the bottom, you're beginning to see that curve on the far right starting to uptick again just a little bit. So that's one value for you to consider, and that we'll continue to consider as we move through discussions. The second is the percentage of positive PCR tests. And same thing here, just wanted to give you a perspective across time of where we are. Right now, we're in the low, sitting at about 3.7%. You can see that back in January, we were at high at about 20.6%. And when we started school last year in August, we were again low at about 4.2%. So that's just giving you that perspective. And then those values combined in the next slide just show you sort of where we stand. You have one that's low, one that's moderate, so you take the higher of the two. So our community transmission rate right now, the indicator is sitting at a moderate level for us. The second step is that you evaluate local and school level vaccination coverage. So what we've gathered for you here is the vaccine coverage for fully vaccinated individuals. If you could move to the next slide for me, please. Thank you. This is within Page County. You'll see the adult population of 18 and plus, we're sitting at about 43.3%. In the state, we're sitting at about 63%, 64%. And then if you look at the total population of 12 and older, for the state of Virginia, it's at 53%, and in Page County, we're sitting at 36%. And this is important. The Department of Health really wants us to pay attention to this because the COVID variant, the Delta particularly, is impacting unvaccinated people at a higher rate. Could you go back for 1 second, please? Thank you. The other value you'll see on the side, which I'll present to you each month for a while, just shows you by age group where those vaccination percentages are. So you can get a sense of where our school-age children who are 12 and older are with vaccinations.
And fully vaccinated is both shots.
Both shots or the Johnson & Johnson. Yeah. As far as staff go, this is a little bit more ambiguous simply because we've had some turnover and we don't know. So in the spring of 2021, we were sitting at about 70% of staff. So again, we don't have that figure with staff who have come in. So right now, that's sort of an unknown for us in terms of that. The next step is we're going to evaluate the level of impact on the school. And again, this is a chart that you've probably been familiar with over the past year, where we look at what's the transmission rate in the school, what's our student absenteeism rate like, and what's our staff capacity, meaning do we have teachers to be able to teach the students? And again, those values go from low to moderate to high. Right now, we don't have a value for you because obviously we haven't been in school. Summer school has gone well for us. I would say we're at a very low rate there with transmission. So we would continue to update this as we move into the school year with more students in the building. Level 4 is just understanding your community. And the data point that I have for you tonight is just simply wanting to give you an update on enrollment, where we stand as of today. We have about 3185 students registered. And just to give some perspective, in January 1st of this year, we were sitting at 3228. So right now it's a difference of about 43 students, but we still have time before school starts. So I'm optimistic that we'll be either at that level or even a little bit higher than that when school starts in August. And then step 5 is the one with probably the most information right now that we are just gathering data on and have just received information from the Department of Health and Virginia Department of Education. And that's on your strategies, prevention strategies that you put into place in your schools. So those are things like your promoting of vaccines, your consistent and correct use of masking, your physical distancing, your screening testing if you choose to use it, your ventilation, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, your cleaning and maintenance of your facilities to keep a healthy environment, encouraging people to stay home when they're sick, and contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine. So with regard to masks, that's where we're seeing most of the information in the past couple days coming out. If you recall, we're still under the health inspector for Virginia's guidance until the 25th that any students in K-12 should still wear a mask, students and staff, regardless of vaccine status. That will expire next week, and we don't anticipate at this point, we've been told not to expect another mandate. So then I'm just going to present to you the different recommendations that are out there. Again, my purpose tonight is just information. The CDC's recommendation right now is that masks should be worn indoors by all individuals ages 2 and up who are not fully vaccinated, and those who are vaccinated can choose to wear a mask while indoors. The Virginia Department of Health and the VDOE current recommendation is a little bit more prescriptive, and what they are doing is they are leaving the decision up to localities to make a choice about masking. Their recommendation, though, their sort of guidelines that they're asking you to consider are that in elementary schools, and if your elementary school includes a pre-K program, you include those students in that mask directive, should require all students, staff, and teachers to wear masks indoors, regardless of their vaccination status, at least until a vaccine is available for students under the age of 12. And there's been sufficient time for that vaccine to take effect, meaning the 2 doses can be administered. At a minimum, at the middle schools and the high schools, we're going to ask that they require students, teachers, and staff who are not fully vaccinated to wear a mask indoors. So they've given their recommendations based on probably K to 6-ish, because you will have some 12-year-olds in 6th grade, and then for 7 through 12. And again, they wanted the caveat there that this may change, their mandate may change over time based on either state and local health, depending on where the COVID values land based on the previous information about how we assess our community. And then the American Academy of Pediatrics also came out this week with a recommendation that all students over the age of 2 and all staff should wear a mask indoors regardless of vaccination status, unless they have a medical or a developmental condition. And their rationale for their recommendation was that no students under 12 are vaccinated yet. Masking protects those who are vaccinated against transmission, and it also reduces transmission. It's particularly difficult. Kind of a pitfall for us would be monitoring and enforcing mask policies for those who are not vaccinated. There is one caveat to all of this. There currently is a federal order in place for public transportation that's not scheduled to go away right now. They are working on it, but it's still going to be in effect when we start school. And that order requires that masks are to be worn on public transportation, and public school buses, cars, and vans that are used to transport students are considered public transportation. So we would have to require students to wear masks on buses until that order is changed. So the other big one that's been, for the past year or two is physical distancing. Currently, the CDC is recommending that we maintain at least 3 feet of physical distance between students in classes, combined with indoor mask wearing of people who are not fully vaccinated, just to reduce the transmission risk. However, they do stress that if 3 feet precludes you being able to get students back in school fully on a regular schedule, i.e. 5 days a week, then they recommend that you put other prevention strategies into place and distance when you can and how you can. Physical distancing for the VDH and the VDOE recommendations that came out yesterday are similar, that you should be maximizing to the greatest extent possible the distance that you put between students. But again, it shouldn't preclude you from having in-person instruction for those students. So if you can get 3 feet, get 3 feet. If you can get 6, get 6, depending on how much space you have in those classrooms or those areas where students will be learning or participating in activities. With regard to the update from VDH about close contact, we wanted to point this out because this is quite an exception that is new as of just last week. You guys will recall that close contact is that exposure for 15 minutes over a 24-hour period within 6 feet of someone. That's not changing and won't change. What is different is that they have put an exception into place that in an indoor K-12 setting, a student who's within 3 to 6 feet of an infected person is not considered in close contact as long as both of the students are wearing a mask and the school has other prevention practices in place. So that's a very different direction than anything we got last year related to close contact. And that's irregardless of vaccine status for obviously for students there. So in addition to face masks and physical distancing, we also want to look at other mitigation strategies that we as a division may want to have in place. Vaccines, obviously our health department, the Lord Fairfax Health Department, as well as the VDH and the CDC are pushing vaccines because that is the easiest way to stop transmission. They want to advocate, and we will continue to advocate for proper hand washing and the use of hand sanitizer. We're going to, again, promote that good respiratory etiquette and teach our children how to do that. We're going to continue to clean and sanitize our buildings. We'll continue our contact tracing efforts. Quarantining will likely need to occur. It'll be handled on a case-by-case basis, just depending on, and vaccine status doesn't implicate that. Testing, there's screening and diagnostic testing that is available if we want to pursue that. And again, we always just want to encourage anyone who might be symptomatic or not feeling well to just stay home and consult with their healthcare professional rather than coming to school, whether that's staff or student. And then just a couple other little pieces we wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that relate to the opening of school in the next couple of weeks. All students will be provided with free breakfast and lunch again this year. I think that was shared in June, but we just wanted to reiterate that as parents are starting to now get ready for school, remind them that breakfast and lunch is available to all students. Transportation services, they do anticipate minimal changes to bus routes this year. And athletics, we have not heard a whole lot from the Virginia High School League, but they did release their football schedules. They are, right now, we're looking at practices beginning next week and the week after that. So in VHSL's world, things are sort of on a normal schedule. If we hear more from them, obviously that would be information that we would bring to you all and share. But at this point, the only information we've gotten from VHSL is a release of the football schedules. And we just put on there for you the first 2 football games for Page High and for Lorraine, because I know that's community wants to really get back into the feel of it. So now they know the dates of when those first 2 games will be taking place. Unfortunately, they are home games on the same night. So. And then lastly, just a couple of other calendar events as we again begin that ramp up to returning to school. We've got our new teachers coming in on August 9th. All of our teachers and staff will return on August 11th, where they'll be participating in a variety of professional development. They'll be doing some class preparation, working on planning together, various meetings and trainings that they have to do at the start of every school year. Right now, our parent orientations and student orientations are scheduled for August 18th and 19th. We'll be pushing information out about those soon. We haven't published anything other than just the dates right now. And then, again, Monday, August the 23rd, believe it or not, we'll be here before we know it. That's the first day of school for all of our students. And just a reminder that that first week, we do dismiss every day at 12:30 to accommodate students or teachers or families who might be participating in the fair. So that board for you is a very quick update of a lot of information that is out there and circulating. And we anticipate getting more information over the next couple of weeks. Questions?
I have a comment. So it seems to me from the science, it seems that more emphasis should be put on ventilation, proper ventilation in schools, masking, respiratory etiquette, and social distancing, and perhaps a little less, if we're able to save some money and save some time, maybe not so much of the deep cleaning that science has basically found to be not nearly as effective.
Yeah, I think you'll see there's information out there that where we used to spend a lot of time wiping down surfaces or worrying about decontaminating books and things, you're not seeing transmission happen on surfaces. So I don't think we stopped that because it did also help us outside of COVID. We didn't see a lot of transmission of things like stomach bugs and other common cold and the flu. So I think we can continue with that. You know, we have on a discussion item for our principals meeting to talk about the wipes and how we're using those and to evaluate our procedures with those, because yes, they are costly.
And the last thing I'll say is ventilation is not something I don't think this school system took seriously last year in or summer into fall. I think ventilation can be looked at. I mean, during those days when it's not too hot, you can open windows. And I don't know what went on in buildings, Timmy, but I feel like that was not seriously considered. Or even having some classes outside.
Sure, we can certainly have conversations about that. We did,
If needed.
yeah, yeah.
Some
We
neat
did-
things did develop outside stuff, like lunches.
Yeah.
It was really neat,
Yeah.
especially Ray.
There were some-
Middle school.
Yeah, definitely, and we just actually purchased or have a purchase order for picnic tables for both the middle schools and the high schools to expand the outdoor opportunities to not only have classes, but to eat lunch.
So one thing I would encourage, whatever, as you get new information, I think you should always look at a plan of mask versus no mask, because in this community, there's a lot of people that are done with this mask. And there's a lot of people in the community that want masks and want that extra layer of protection. Even on this board, there's going to be disagreements. But I honor that disagreement, but I think you should really have it. I think we should tension. Because those masks for most children, that's a very difficult thing for those kids. Maybe they're used to it now, I don't know. But there's a level of freedom there.
Should be up to the parents and the students.
And there's gonna be disagreement, I understand it. At least we can vote on the options.
The difference between last year and this year is there is local decision-making power now. So we can collectively make that decision for our community based on the information we shared about the different values that we want to look at in terms of where COVID is. And then just other conversations about what's best for our students. So we have that luxury, I guess you could say, that we can now make that decision ourselves.
Yeah, in a scenario in my mind is, a student comes in and is masked on the bus, comes into the place and finds out that they're sick. Maybe that whole school has to mask up that day or the next couple of days, or next whatever, just to stop it that day. But it'd be great if we could be free again, in my opinion, and healthy.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
Um,
And that's right. Moving on to the next item, update on it's our first time. Moving up to our next informational item, update on COVID funds. Dr. Fox.
Yes, thank you. Sorry to jump in on front.
That's all right.
Just a brief update for you because this did come up in the last meeting in June. We just wanted to give you an update that we have been meeting. I will say that just because of the number of different funds, and now we also have the opportunity graciously to have a CIP fund, we've been looking at a number of things and whether they fit into, say, COVID funding or whether they're things that we'll keep in the current CIP plan, and we'll discuss that later with you all. We're not going to make any updates or changes without coming to you all. But so we're still sorting through all of those funds, but I will tell you that our CARES and our GEARS funds, which were the first kind of two that came out last year, probably around this time when we started school, those are almost completely spent. We just talked today about getting rid of those two and being done with them. So the VOE has said that you can move to another fund without expending the previous ones. So they've given latitude there in terms of you can use all of your funding now in different ways and however you wish. Our preference is that we're going to finish one before we move to the next one. It's just going to make things a lot cleaner and simpler, and we'll keep track of things. I think for the finance staff, it's going to make life a lot easier in terms of management. So that's our preference. So we are looking now, we have some ESSER 2 money that we're going to finish spending. If you recall, a lot of that was spent on the Promethean boards, which are here and being put in as we speak, sort of. We're waiting on some stands for those. And then we have the American Rescue money, or the ESSER 3, that we have not started spending yet, but we're in the planning for that. That is the one that requires some public comment. So our plan at this point is to bring you a draft of our plan at our school board meeting on the 12th. We will then on the 13th open up that plan with for public comment through a survey online, leave that open, and then bring back to you on the 26th of August a final plan and recommendation to be able to submit that by September 1st. So that's our plan for that. It'll allow for that public piece that we have to have, as well as for your input moving forward. So unless there's any objections to that timeline, that was the essence of the update, was just to let you know where we are with those funds and then let you know our plan for the ESSER 3. So any questions on that? Thank you.
Next one, policy regulation, public participation in board meetings, BDH-R. And you have, the board has this as a packet. And the first one is our policy, and behind that is the BDH-R, which is the regulation that the superintendent is going to be presenting to us.
So thank you. So again, this is just an informational item tonight for you in terms of adding a regulation to our current policy on public presentations at the school board meeting. And it basically, the goal of this is just to outline and be a little bit more definitive with some of the pieces of the policy to give more concrete information to our public so they know exactly what our expectations are in terms of time limitations, setting a limit there for that, the topics that can be discussed, and this where we'll clarify that they need to be topics that are on our agenda for the evening, the decorum that we expect in terms of our public being a role model in how they present information to us, how they would sign up to speak prior to the board meeting, any written comments that they might want to provide if they come in and speak and they have, say, information that they want to share that supports their position, what they would do with that, and then the public hearing that we might have, say, for the budget, what the expectations would be and what the process would be to sign up to speak for an event like that. So again, just information for you tonight. If you would like us to move it to an action, we can certainly do that.
Okay, and the other pieces that you have,
Yeah, so there's two forms that are currently out there. One is what we're currently using for online submissions of comments. And the other is, I think one was used initially when COVID was very heavy and we weren't having any people come in. The other is now that we've opened it back up and you can speak if you choose, you would still like to just have a written comment submitted electronically. These are the forms that can be used for that. So ultimately, we would have one form that would be used if your pleasure is to continue to allow electronic submissions to be made for board comment.
and the other one that you have, it says public comment at a school board meeting. It's how they would sign up. So they would fill out this form, they put their name, address, the topic on which they're speaking, and then it gives them the regulation right there. So even though they don't have to go someplace else to look for it, it's there. It doesn't have to be handed to them. It's there. And then they have to attest that they have read it and understood it. And then they put in their date and time that they submitted it. So that goes to the clerks, and then they can print those out. So we have the stack already who's speaking on what topic, and we already know. So that's what this is, to alleviate phone calls and the emails and the different places, and puts it in a form she has access to that then has it that day of the board meeting. Just try to be more efficient and more clear on if you're coming to speak before the board, fill this out, and then here's the information that pertains to you speaking before the board. So that's what that is, for you to look at, comment on. Now, there have been some changes made to the regulation, the big one. So the one that's in here, it's almost copied the same, but there have been changes made since this was, because this is the draft form. So just know that go by this one, not necessarily this one. It's just a placeholder. Okay.
Just a point of clarification. So this is going to be online. They can sign up online. Is that going to replace being able to come to the meeting?
No.
Okay.
That's just signing up, telling us what you're talking on.
Okay.
And we also have the computer. If someone walks in, they can do it right there, because right now Kim is out there. So here, fill it out online, and it throws it in the same order that they would then come before us. So then it can be printed out, and we have it as official record of who wanted to speak and on what topic.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? Okay.
I guess it's a matter of we want to bring it to a vote.
Right, this is just informational right now.
I would say bring it, adjust it, whatever you want to do.
Okay. I can bring you a formal draft next meeting for action item.
Okay, perfect. Thank
So
you.
you want next meeting to be the action?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay.
So,
Do
yep.
it, get it over with.
So if you have any cares and concerns what's there, please make sure I or the superintendent know so we can make those changes. Okay. Next, school board meetings. Okay. What this is, to go back in time, not to single you out, Mr. Hubler, but you're the first one that asked for it to go back to the meetings, to go back to the schools. Dr. Painter has now been the second member asked for it to go back to meeting in schools. So that's one of the topics that's underneath this. The other pieces is as we come out of COVID, are we still going to continue with the online comment section? Not signing up to speak to the board, but the online comment section that gets read out. Are we going to continue that? And then are we going to continue YouTube? So that's something that, those three things the board needs to consider, and we need to have discussion about if we're going to continue the online comment section and then the YouTube video that was only put in because of COVID, because people couldn't come. Because if we move it to a school, and let's just say one of the high schools, that can definitely accommodate many more people. So that's the question to the board now. So discussion.
Like YouTube, but what cost is associated with providing YouTube? Is it paying
No cost, I didn't think so.
no cost? Is the BOS board of supervisors, are they going to continue with YouTube?
That's a question we can reach out and ask.
I'm curious, because maybe we want to
Can
be
you reach out to
consistent,
Kennedy and ask her?
and maybe we look at other systems. What was the other one you spoke of, the high schools? Would that be on the rotation like we used to have?
Well, it's however we would like it. I was talking to, I think it was Dr. Painter, maybe it was you, the clerk, that to give it breadth across the division, it would be me at Springfield Elementary, because it's at one end of the county, Shenandoah Elementary, because it's at the other end of the county, and then one that possibly is somewhere in the middle. Now, Stanley technically, I guess, is more in the middle, or the tech center is more in the middle, but can they accommodate different crowds easily? So we have to look at the settings of the schools, but and certainly we have the two high schools, Page and
And those were often used for awards, like SOL scores and things like that, remember?
So that's something else. Are we going to rotate through all 9 schools, or are we going to pick like Springfield, Shenandoah, and then a middle ground, like Page High, Stanley Elementary, the Tech Center, or Luray High, sort of in the center? I mean, Luray's not so much in the center, but it does accommodate a lot more people. So, or rotate through all 9. So that's one that we need to consider.
Online submittals, I say yes. YouTube, I say yes. Schools rotation, that's something that makes sense.
All 9, or pick
No, like
4.
4 or 5, and just rotate them through the year, and then maybe switch them next to the following.
Okay. What's
I'm in agreement with Mr. Goodler, just how he laid it out.
okay? And Mr. Lansbury?
Don't make no difference to me, you gotta meet.
Okay. Snoop.
Unless I stay home and collect my money.
I'll go along with the group, but in the areas, at each school, I would encourage people to come out as opposed to doing it online or depending on YouTube. I think it's important, if it's important to the people, they come out. And I realize that's not always possible, maybe because of whatever reason, and I can live with that, but you know, it's one thing to be there and hear everything and see it in action as opposed to how much do you really pay attention when you're sitting at home listening or whatever, it's easy to miss something. And, but, I would encourage you, we're gonna go to all these different places, then I hope there's gonna be a good presence. If 5 people show up, I'm sorry, I don't think it's worth the time to have to set up all that and what have you. But if it's important in that area, come out. Again, I can live with anything, but it's a lot of setup and what have you. And if we're gonna do it, then I hope people will take advantage and come.
And we can always change. We'll go
Exactly,
out and there's
yeah.
nobody shows up.
And I think we play it by ear and see how it goes,
We could try the 2 high schools first, see what happens.
whatever.
Sure.
That might be the way to go, is go with the 2 high schools first.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah.
If you got
Because-
enough people.
Stanley, it's as close to go to Luray as it is to Page, Shenandoah, Grove Hill, all that area, and then Raleighville can come into Luray. So, I have no problem with that. But again, if we're gonna go out, I hope to see a good crowd.
Okay. This was just the information.
Right.
The superintendent and I will work on the action and what she or I will present next time will have what we just said. If you agree, that's how you'll vote. And then we'll go from there. Because we took a vote to be here at this time, so now we have to take a vote if we're changing to go someplace else. So that's why it has to become a vote. Okay. So we'll work on that and get that as an action item. Do you want it at the next board meeting or the following board meeting? Because it's how soon do you want to get? Next board
Get
meeting?
it ready, yes. I'll see no
We'll
reason
have it
why
for the next board meeting. Okay. And we'll put in there the recommendation of where we start, and then we just bounce back and forth between whichever schools that we put in there, or if it's 2 high schools. What's the pleasure of the board? Just starting with the 2 high schools and seeing where we go?
Because
Okay.
you've got the capacity
Yeah.
of people and that sort of things.
Okay.
And the technology.
Yeah. So we'll put that in the action when it comes before the board. Okay. Next one. VSBA board governance training. This is just another reminder. Dr. Fox, I'll let you take this.
Sure. So our first one is coming up fast. It's next Thursday in Charlottesville. So we've provided you with the agenda for the day where we'll look at roles and responsibilities and establishing board norms and protocols. So we're looking forward to that. And if you do want to carpool, I just need to know from you if you're interested in that so I can make those arrangements. So if you just let me know at some point if you're interested in that. But otherwise, that's the agenda for next Thursday.
And the clerk does have it posted already, so it is already out there that it's considered a meeting and it's in Charlottesville. So she's taking care of that for us already, as well as the one in August, correct? Yep. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments on that? Okay. Moving on to the next item, Ms. Seacrest, claims for payment.
Yes, board members, you all have been provided with claims for payment, where the total operating fund was $672,956.40. Food service fund, $8,991.28. Total expenditures, $681,947.68. Along with that, you have the list of claims as well as the check register. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the claims for payment as presented.
Okay, Ms. Smoot makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Lansbury is seconded.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes. We're on to the next item, purchase orders over $10,000. Ms. Sechrist?
Yes, Board, we have 3 purchase orders for your approval this evening. They all are using local technology funds. The Aptigee is, my understanding is for the app that the school uses. The others are for Chromebook charging carts, and then the Apex Learning that we use as a online tool a lot for alternative ed or children trying to get into a different type of class. If you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer.
Question for whoever. What percentage of parents and grandparents use the Aptigee app? Roughly. Maybe Blake. Do you know that?
That would be a Tricia question.
Okay. I sense that maybe it's an underutilized app and expense for the system. But I don't know.
We could probably get you some more data on that, Mr.
That's a
Bubler,
very good
and
question.
share that with
Yeah.
you on that. Again, that's, Mr. Runyon kind of works on all of that for us. So
Understood.
we can definitely look into that and get you all some more information.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase orders for over $10,000 as presented.
I have Mr. Painter with the motion. Do I have a second? I have Mr. Lansbury with a second.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Gubler.
No.
Mrs. Sullivan Snoot.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. But my yes was because I want to also still know how many is actually using the
Yes, sir.
app.
I will be sure to get you all some information.
And we're Workman's Comp panel of physicians. Dr. Fox?
Yes, so before you is a list of the current physicians that we would use in the event that we have a workman's comp claim in the division. This is the same list that was used last year, was approved, and in discussions, there have been no problems over the past year. So the recommendation, the request tonight is that you approve this for us to move forward.
Any questions or comments? I have a question, but does anyone else? My question is, I know at Stanley office, there's one doctor, it's Dr. Lee, and 2 nurse practitioners. But at the emergent care, there's not a doctor listed at all.
I have to come back to you on that. I don't have an answer for that.
Because it's nurse practitioners, physician's
There's a physician,
assistant,
yeah, but there, yeah.
and not a doctor.
Several emergent care, this is just my personal experience, don't have a doctor
Okay,
on hand.
but the-
That's been my personal experience.
And I'm sure
Been nurse practitioners.
ViaCorp had to approve those. So if they vet it through them and they're fine with no doctor, because I know Dr. Lee oversees the 2 practitioners that are there in his office, but I'm just wondering if they have a doctor that oversees.
Right.
That's just a concern that I have. So
Within that express.
can we just find out, because we're going to move forward and vote, but can we just find out if the emergent care does have a doctor that sort of supervises or oversees that? I personally see a nurse practitioner. I have no issue with a nurse practitioner. I love mine, but maybe some of the staff may prefer a doctor. So, okay, do I have a motion to approve the Workman's Comp panels of physicians as presented?
Chairman, I approve the workman's comp panels of positions as presented.
Second.
Wait,
It's a motion.
yeah, do your motion.
I make a motion that we accept or approve the workman's comp panels of positions as presented.
Okay, thank you. I
I apologize.
have a motion from Mr. Gubler.
Yep, thank you.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Smoot is the second.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lance,
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I do want to know if they're supervised.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to the next topic, it's paving projects at Luray Elementary School and Page County High School. Dr. Fox?
Yeah, so up for your approval this evening is the approval of a bid form for the paving of those two schools for Pettit Paving. And their competitive bid met all of our requirements. So our ask tonight is for you to officially approve that. And I did ask Mr. Williams to be here. He's just going to give us a quick update on the progress of that for you all tonight.
Wait.
Can you
Can we do that in discussions?
Yeah.
So let me make a motion that we approve the paving projects POs as presented, as we've seen also in the emails.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Painter, and I have a second by Mrs. Smoot.
Discussion, you can.
Now discuss.
Good evening, Board. I'm pleased to report back to you that the work is in progress, that Luray Elementary, all that was dug up last year, the gravel that was exposed in the parking lot has been covered, repaved, looks wonderful. The circle has been done. They moved on today to Page County High School to repair the parking lot where we've dug to repair the water lines. Mr. Pettit, I talked with him and he wanted to move to make sure that we got all the paving done where traffic was. And then after that's done, we're going to go back and start resealing, and he's going to come back to Luray to do the basketball court in a small lot. But we wanted to make sure that we got everything covered before traffic got there on it. So give it a little time.
When you say the circle,
That's
Which-
the circle at the elementary school,
is that the one in the back or the one in the front?
the one in front. The one that's actually a circle.
The one that faces Luray Middle
It
School?
comes off of Luray Avenue, it
Yeah,
comes back,
okay.
and goes up over the hill.
Because there's a back circle.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I guess that would be correct. I stand to be correct. That is the back of the building, but yes, that's where the parents pick up. Is that more clear?
That's the circle that you're
That's the
talking about,
circle
where
I'm
the
speaking
parents
of.
come in the back of the building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the front of the building where they tore up for the water?
That's complete. That is done.
Did they only
Mark.
patch that or they paved the whole thing?
They paved the whole thing from the speed bump back very close to where you go into the cafeteria, where those doors are at the cafeteria. Everything else gets sealed and, restriped from there. The asphalt's still good, but every bit of that part of the parking lot from there down to where we started in the dirt again has been
Repaved.
repaved. It's all in good shape. Any other questions or anything I can answer? Or?
What are they doing at Page? You said the well, but what else? Just sealing it, the rest at Page, or are they doing any?
I'm trying to think, and I'm going to say, and it's a total guess. I think it's probably 8, maybe 10 spots. Some of them we had to go back that along the way. It was on this side of the parking lot, then in front of the school, and then around behind the school where it was dug up. So he's going back, and what he does is where we had the gravel in it, he'll take it down about 4 inches or so and put a base coat in that, and then come back and completely resurface that part. That's all that's getting done. The asphalt is good there. It's just patching what's up, and then he'll seal over top of it and restripe it.
And is someone going back and checking?
I check him every day,
Thank
a
you.
couple times a day. I have pictures if you would like for me to send them to you, or you would like to see them or whatever.
That's up to them. I don't need to see the pictures, but as long as you're watching it and knowing it's
Oh yeah, I check on them.
okay.
Yes, they. It requires 2 inches in it. We're getting a good 2 inches everywhere.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you, man. Okay, any other questions for the superintendent on this topic? Okay.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lance,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes. Okay. do we want to save the board discussion time after we hear the comments?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll hear the comments and then we'll come back to the board discussion.
We got it's 3-minute time limits as well, right?
Yep, and, you know, Ms. Breeden Wallace is keeping time.
Do we have to have the news in here when I talk?
Ma'am, you had indicated to the board that you were here just for the reopening of schools. Now we're having someone comment that they don't want to be recorded.
I don't know this time, but it's already been recorded.
No, I understand. Okay,
Okay.
so, my name's Pam Lawson, 2656 Fleaburg Road. Mr. Painter, thanks for speaking up for us, letting us have a voice. I've already gave you my questions that I have, and I realize that none of you can answer them right here. And Mr. Breeden said he would work on getting that. But I do want to read them in public, and I know that you can't answer them, but it's not just my questions, it's a group of parents, and it's 10 simple questions. So for question number 1, why are we only allowed to comment on what's on the agenda? When are we allowed to comment on something other than what's on the agenda? Number 2, why are we still having school board meetings here? Number 3, why is the agenda posted so close to the meeting? And want to know if it could be more descriptive and be posted earlier possible for parents to prepare. So this week I've got 2 emails that said that the policy was getting updated on the comments based on practices that have been occurring. So I'm asking what those practices are that's been occurring, and is it because the parents are speaking out on the laws that are being forced upon our children? Why can we not have a special meeting at one of the schools and give the parents 5 minutes to talk, and we can consolidate good speakers to speak that's for them or against them? Are our children going to be required to wear masks again this year? And if so, is virtual going to be an option? We want to know when the vote on the transgender policy, mask, and CRT will be made for parents to voice. We want to know, will the votes, parents be able to speak before those votes are voted on? We also would like to know if there will be a vote on that before the deadline of pulling our children out of public school. And the last, well, there's 2 more. We also would like to know if the vote will be public so the parents can see who was for it and who was against it, because we need to know who to vote out. And then Mr. Breeden already answered this. Can you respond to my questions through email? I left my email. I know he probably can't answer them all, but maybe as a group, somebody might know more on something than somebody else. And the last thing is, we do have a petition going, and I realize that it might not mean a whole lot, but there's over 1,000 signatures, and it's still growing until the next meeting, that oppose Mr. Northam's law. So we're just hoping that you guys will do the right thing. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you once again, Mr. Painter.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is where I go to?
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Lori Foster. My address is 224 Hollow Run Road, Luray, Virginia, and I really don't want the news recording me either. The only thing I have to say is I profess to be a Christian. I love everybody. I don't care what they think they are. I still love them. But I don't want, if I have a pool party at my house and I have my granddaughter there and my grandson and other kids come, I don't let the little boys go in the bathroom with my granddaughter. And I don't let the little girls go in the bathroom with my grandson. I don't think it's appropriate. And I think that if we need to, we should just take money and build new restrooms. I don't want to pay higher taxes either, but I will. It's worth it to me to pay higher taxes. It's not so much the transgender people as it is this little boy saying today, I identify as a transgender so that he can go into the little girl's restroom, whether he identifies as a transgender or not. How are we going to stipulate who is and who is not?
Does that conclude your, all
That concludes what I have to say.
right, thank you, Mrs. Foster.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Please state your name and your address.
My name's Gary Dingus. I live 2161 Honeyville Road.
Thank you.
I'd just like to address the people watching on YouTube and the rest of the members. As tax-paying citizens sitting outside here, that the chairman, Mr. Breeden, right? Pretty much everything you told us out there was a lie this afternoon. You told us there was no topic on here that was going to be addressed. But you let someone in here that addressed a topic that wasn't on here after telling us that you wasn't. We're all good people out there taxpaying. You've wasted our time all evening long without hearing everybody out. Moving forward, my question would be to y'all, and if you could answer it, how can we trust you? Thank y'all.
Thank you. Hello, state your name and your address.
Yeah, Andrew Bass Knight, 148 Americana Road, Luray, Virginia. Okay, 3 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, and I'm just a person about morals. I think, we were built under a country of biblical priesthood. I'm just here to just tell you that Romans chapter 1 and 12, right on through to 25, teaches us that it's unseemly for a man to be with a man, woman to be with a woman. These are biblical proofs, and that we have taught this thing to our children down through the years. Somehow the transgenders come into the play, and what's happened is this is a mental disorder, folks. This is not a choice. This is a mental disorder. This happens to people that need help. They need mental help. They need this to be done, and we need to organize something in this county to help the folks that are going through this. It's not because, look, what happens is transgenders get into schools. They're allowed to go into maybe the ladies' bathroom. If I'm called back in my days at 16, 17-year-old, I'm going to act like a transgender to see my favorite cheerleader undress. Is this what you want? I'm going to act like it. How can you prove that I'm not? I might give a lawsuit against the school if you come against me and say I'm not, that I'm faking. So how do you know that? How do you distinct the difference? You can't. And I can come back out of school with my lawyer and said, I changed my mind over last week. I'm now trying. You see, this is going to cause chaos because lies are getting into the school systems. And when lies get into the school systems, bad things are going to happen. I'll leave you with that message. God bless every one of you.
Thank you. That's it? Okay. Mhm. Ms. Reed and Wallace, could you go back to the online comment and read that one?
Chloe Kentler, 270 Furnace Hill Road, Stanley, Virginia. Hi, I want you all to know that I strongly disagree with this, as it is uncomfortable for most children. I hope both the government and school board makes better decisions in the future.
We don't know what that technically is referring to. We can make assumptions, but that was from one of our students. Okay, now board discussion.
I have two things. I would like to ask the board and those listening to please keep in your thoughts and prayers Mr. Bruce Short, who was a former teacher and athletic director at Page County High School. He had major heart surgery last week. He is doing much better. And I know the family would appreciate any and all thoughts and prayers as he has a slow recovery, but from what I've heard so far, it's going very well considering. And also a shout out to the 8U girls softball team. Left Shenandoah this evening at 7 o'clock on their way to Florida. Now, these are 8-year-olds and under, so they could be from Shenandoah, Stanley, Elkton, wherever. But that is quite an accomplishment, and so we wish them well, good luck, and safe travels to and from.
Any other board discussion comment?
Might just add that, community members and parents might consider trying to get their 12 to 15 years old and 16 to 17-year-old kids, students, vaccinated before the school year starts. It's a great opportunity now. There's no lines. The vaccination rates for those two groups are only 10.3% and 18.8%, well below the county average. It's a good way to protect teachers. It's a good way to protect parents and grandparents that aren't fully vaccinated. Thank you.
Any other members?
I'll just mention an opportunity. I put it on social media as well, but Dr. Fox will be at our church in the fellowship hall from 5 to 7 on Friday. Parents want to come and students as well. We have some entertainment there as well for them. And I just encourage everybody to just give us time to process stuff. We've let, and there's been a vacuum, I understand, of communication, but you got to do your due diligence on things, and we've just taken our time to do that, so let us do it.
Anyone else? Okay. We now have to go back into closed session to finish discussion about other matters of personnel. And when we come out, we do the certification and the approval.
I need to make the motion again. Okay. I make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 pertaining to the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for school board employment that include appointments, transfers, resignations, appointees, or employees of the school board for personnel in instruction, custodial, maintenance, coaches, and contracted services.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Painter. I have a second from Ms. Smoot. I always want to use first names.
Mr. Beardman.
Yes.
Mr. Lansing.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Breen.
Yes.